Hey everybody, what's going on? What's the common thing between cybersecurity and getting a divorce? Now, I know a lot of you that are listening to this are newcomers into the field or want to switch into cybersecurity, and you think that cybersecurity is one of the most amazing jobs in the world, and I completely agree with you. In a lot of sense, it is. I love what I do, and I wouldn't change it for anything. What a lot of people don't realize, however, is that cybersecurity can be incredibly stressful. There's been some studies, I remember reading this somewhere, that cybersecurity, the stress in working in cybersecurity is equivalent to the stress of getting a divorce or going through a process of a divorce. And a lot of you are pretty young, maybe you are still fresh out of university, still in your early 20s. So this is so far-fetched, you don't even know what I'm talking about. And hopefully I will never get to experience this as well. So let's put that aside. Let's not talk about divorce. Let's talk about some statistics. There's a study that was done by the Chartered Institute of Information Security. And the result of this survey or of the study shows that more than half of the people working in cybersecurity get sleepless nights constantly because of their job. Imagine not being able to sleep because of the stress of your job. Almost half of these people work more than 41 hours a week, some of them up to 90 hours a week. That basically means that you have no life outside of work. So I know cybersecurity sounds pretty cool and it's an amazing job, and it is in a lot of ways. But as somebody who's been working in cybersecurity for many years, I can tell you for a fact that it can be incredibly stressful. And this is something you need to know about. You need to understand before you make the switch and before you make the decision. So throughout these years, here's what I experienced as something that makes me stressed and increase my stress levels working in cybersecurity. These are things that I've experienced myself, I know are true about myself, and I know as well that a lot of my peers that work in cybersecurity have experienced. Is there more to it than what I'm about to share with you? Absolutely, of course. But these are the main ones that I have experienced. So here's the first one. The first one is the lack of skill sets. You don't have the necessary skills to get a job done. You might get assigned a task or a project that you need to get done, but you don't feel well equipped to get it done. You don't have the skills to do it. Let me give you an example. When I first started my pen testing career, a few years down the line, I was tasked to go do a mobile application pen test. So that was very fresh, new sort of concept. Not a lot of people were doing mobile application pen testing. I tried to read about it, I tried to learn about it. There were very few resources. And I remember actually, because of that pen test, I ended up writing an article on OWASP on how to set up a mobile pen testing lab. So what happened with that mobile pen testing lab? This is where it gets interesting. I flew into the customer side. I remember checking into the hotel. I was so stressed about it because I didn't know what to do. I didn't even unpack my suitcase. Opened the laptop, sat on the desk, and I started trying to figure out how to do a mobile pen test. Like, what do I need to do? How do I grab the binary, so to speak, for the application? How do I reassemble it? How do I intercept the communication? How do I get the mobile in debug mode? How can I read the local database or the local files on the mobile? All of this was not documented anywhere. There was no training for it anywhere. And I pulled an all-nighter trying to figure all this out, and in the hope that in the next morning I'm not gonna look like an idiot in front of the customer. So luckily I sort of by a miracle managed to make it happen, and as a result I wrote this article on OWASP on how to set up a mobile pen testing lab. And that was that. But that was an incredibly stressful period when I had to go and get this done because I didn't believe I have the skill set, and I didn't. I had to learn on the job. So when you find yourself in a situation like this, and it's very likely that you will find yourself in a situation where you have to do something you're not very comfortable with. What can you do? One of two things. One, either get a training before you have to do it. It would have helped me tremendously to get a training before I went into that engagement and did that mobile pen test. I had to catch up later on, and I took a few trainings when trainings were starting to get publicized on mobile pen testing. So get a training if that's possible before you do it. If you are very tight on time and very short on time and you cannot get a training, ask for help. Sometimes, I don't know why, maybe we shy away from asking for help, maybe our egos kick in, but that's not the time for your ego. Put your ego aside and go ask for help. There's a reason why there is hierarchy in teams. You are listening to this because you're probably somebody who wants to break into cybersecurity, get started. So it's likely that you are still a junior. If you're a junior, that means there's somebody supervising you, mentoring you, who is your senior. That senior has the job, the role, the responsibility to help you out and support you. If you are not comfortable doing X, Y, Z, like in hindsight, what I should have done is go and talk to my senior and say, look, I'm not comfortable doing that. Can you please help me? Can you support me? Can you maybe take the lead on this? And I will shadow you. I will learn from you. And after a few engagements, I will be able to go and do it on my own. So when you find that you have a skill set shortage, either get trained or talk to your superior and get help from them. The second thing is getting overwhelmed. And this is a big one, particularly in smaller teams. Be it on the defensive side, offensive side, be it a consultant, be it working as an end user, it's very often that you will find yourself having to wear multiple hats. You're gonna have to learn how to do, for example, if you're on an end user side, how to manage the SIM, how to manage different technologies, firewalls, WAFs, DLP, PKI, whatever it might be. You might think I'm over exaggerating, but I am not. I've seen this happen. I've been through this myself, where I had to manage and learn so many different technologies because we had a small team and I had to wear multiple hats. And when that happens, you are guaranteed to feel overwhelmed. It's just way too much information, way too much technology, way too much projects, tasks, assignments that you need to go through. So what can you do in this situation? Two things. One, prioritize. Try to prioritize. Now, we have the general tendency as humans when we're talking about prioritizing. Let's say you have a task list. We have this general tendency of starting with the easiest task. Get the easiest task out of the way because we're familiar with it. We think it's easy. We can get rid of it as soon as possible. But I beg to differ. And what influenced my thinking about this is a very nice book that I read a long time ago called Eat That Frog. The premise of the book is that imagine you have a plate with different sized frogs. Disgusting, slimy frogs that you have to eat. You can't get out of it. You must eat these frogs. So what will a lot of people do in this situation? They will probably start with the smallest frog. They'll think, okay, this is easy. Let me get it out of the way. But the book argues that you should really be starting with the biggest, baddest, most disgusting, slimiest frog on your plate. Once you get this one out of the way, the rest will look easy. They will look like a piece of cake. Well, okay, not exactly a piece of cake, but you understand what I'm getting to. So get the most difficult, most complicated task out of the way. Of course, provided that you have the skill set and you are capable of doing that. So that goes back to the first point, right? Get that out of the way. This is how you prioritize. Once that is out, you're able then to look at the rest of the tasks and think, okay, this is a little bit easier. I can manage this. I can handle it. If you still cannot manage, if you still cannot handle it, if it's still way too much, you need to learn how to say no. Easier said than done, guaranteed. Look, I'm a confessed nice person. I'm probably one of the nicest persons you'll ever meet. I'm touting my own horn now. But the thing is, I find it difficult to say no. When somebody from my team, my colleagues, my peers come and ask me to help with something, for a favor, to write a script or whatever, I find it very difficult to say no. So what I learned instead is to ask, when do you want this? And that sort of gave me a lot of release, so to speak, from unnecessary pressure that I put on myself. I used to think when somebody sends an email asking for something to be done or gives me a call asking for something to be done, it's urgent, I need to do it as soon as possible. And the list of tasks keeps stacking up and all of those are urgent. But the fact of the matter is that they're not. If you learn how to ask, when do you need this? Is it urgent? Can I do it next week, the week after? More often than not, the answer is going to come back saying, no, it's not urgent. Take your time. It can wait for a week or two. You've just removed an enormous amount of pressure off your shoulders, extended the deadline or the imaginary deadline that you had created to something a little bit more realistic. If that still cannot help, you have to say no. You have to say no in a nice, polite manner. Tell them, look, I'm really overwhelmed. I have way too many things to do. I'm sorry, but I cannot do it. Try to find somebody else to help you out with it. The third thing that creates tremendous stress as well is timing. The time where you have to be in the office, the time where you have to be on call. And this is purely based on different personalities. Some people have absolutely no problem punching in at 9, punching out at 5 or 6 o'clock. Some people need a little bit more flexibility. They cannot be in the office at the exact time and second where you have to be. Some people are okay being on call all the time, waking up in the middle of the night to answer the phone. Some people are not. This is where self-awareness plays a big role. This is where you need to be aware of what you are comfortable with. If you are okay working the graveyard shift in your SOC, so be it. But you have to know there are repercussions for this. You might think it's fine. You might think it's okay, I'll wake up during the night, I'll sleep during the day. But as somebody who might be a little bit older than you, if you are still a junior, I can guarantee you there is a price to be paid for this. You might feel okay now, but a few months or a few years down the line, you're going to start feeling the effects on your body, on your mental health. Now, what's the solution here? There isn't a solution, to be honest. This is the job. This is what the job requires. If you sign on the dotted line, you signed the contract and accepted these conditions, you've accepted them. You have to take responsibility. But before you do, you need to be aware of the consequences. You need to be aware of the repercussions. If you're okay with that, you're a responsible adult. That's completely up to you. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be aware of what's going to happen. Now, as a result of all of these points that I've mentioned and all of the sort of mounted stress, you might get to a point where you stop enjoying what you're doing. I'm no longer enjoying what I'm doing. I don't want to do this anymore. And that adds more stress. So it's sort of like a vicious cycle of I'm stressed because of the timing, or I'm stressed because of the shortage of skill set or shortage of resources. Now I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, and that's stressing me out as well. And that sort of becomes this vicious cycle of stress that's adding to stress. So what can you do here? Usually when these situations occur, it's because of a couple things. Either something about you or something about your environment. If it's something about you that you have the power, that you have the will and the possibility of changing, go ahead and change it. If it's about, let's say, a skill set that you need to go and get trained, go get trained, and that will alleviate the stress. If it is about the timing, you don't want to be coming into the office every day, talk to your manager, talk to your supervisor, ask them if it's okay to work from home a day or two during the week. If they say yes, great, that's going to alleviate a lot of stress. So if it's something about you that you can handle, that you can manage, get it done. If it's not about you, if it's about your environment, try to sort it out as well. Maybe it's a shortage of resources. You're a very small team, you have to wear multiple hats, you have to manage different technologies, you're finding this way too much. Try to change that. Talk to your manager, talk to your supervisor. Tell them, look, I think we need more resources. This is becoming too much. If they change it, great. If not, then you are left with one other option, which is remove yourself from that situation. If the situation doesn't allow you to change yourself, doesn't allow you to change your environment, you are not left with many options. If you have the luxury, and I know not a lot of us have the luxury to move from one job to another whenever we want, maybe you're stuck in a job, you have some bills, you have some loans, that's completely understandable, right? So you have to unfortunately live with it. But if you have the luxury, you have the opportunity, remove yourself from that situation. Don't keep yourself stuck there. A good friend of mine once said something that really stuck with me. He said, "You're not a tree, move." And that sort of rang true deeply within me, and I never forgot this. So if you are able to, you're not a tree, move. All right, so that's it. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of insider information. I know cybersecurity sounds like a really cool job, an amazing job, and it is. It really is, and I love it. It doesn't come without a lot of stress, however, be it feeling like you're getting a divorce or be it like some sleepless nights. It is going to happen, and it's very important for you to be aware of when and why this is happening so you would know how to deal with it. The list obviously goes on and on. I didn't cover everything. These are things that I've experienced myself, that I see my peers and people around me experience sometimes. If it is something else that you're experiencing that you want to share, what you felt, how did you deal with it, please do let us know so that others can benefit from it as well. That's it from me for now, and I will see you soon in another video.